So I want to continue our discussion about this challenge of finding inventory right now, uncovering opportunities for yourself. Because there are two major issues at play right now, especially on the buyer side. Number one is finding the properties, and then number two is still feeling like you're getting a deal. And so a little later on in this program, we're going to talk about negotiating. We're going to talk about how to take control of some of these circumstances and create a favorable outcome for you. But let's focus on this challenge that we have currently of just it being really hard to find properties that you're truly interested in that you'd want to buy and move into. And so, again, before we get into that, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to learn more about the properties that we have access to that you don't, then feel free to give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 400-8009, or visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. So the first thing that I'll say is this. We do a massive amount of lead generation in our own personal real estate business on my real estate team. I have 15 people, and we are a prospecting-based, systems-enhanced real estate company, meaning we are very techy. We use a lot of systems. We use them very well to create a lot of efficiencies in our business. But it doesn't replace the hard work associated with picking up the phone, making connections, and cultivating relationships with people. That is incredibly important in any business. We are in the business of helping people buy and sell real estate, but we're also in the business of finding people to help buy and sell real estate. So sometimes the strength of the real estate agent that you're working with, yes, it's kind of an all-encompassing view of determining a real estate agent's strength and whether or not they're the right fit for you. But for the people that have been lead generating, that have been building databases, that have been communicating with those people for years, we have the ability, especially using some of the systems that we use, when we take on a listing as an example, and let's say that we go back to that same example I used last segment, that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, at least 2,000 square foot home in Mount Pleasant under $500,000. Well, let's say that we're going to list it for $500,000. I can literally go into my system and I can say, okay, who has been on my website, or who have I communicated with within the past 3, 6, 9, 12 months that has looked for a similar property, and my system will spit out the names, the numbers, the email addresses, the search criteria, the other listings that they viewed that were similar to theirs. And in most instances, it's literally hundreds of people that we've already been in communication with looking for something similar. So like as an example, when we take a listing, first thing we do is we say, okay, well, who do we already know? Who have we already been in contact with looking for something like this? And then, of course, we work that target marketed list of prospects to see if they are ready to purchase a home like yours. This is old school real estate. Everybody wants to just throw it on the MLS and take some nice photos and hope that everybody else just brings a buyer and a deal gets done. And because we have such low inventory, yeah, that can work. But when you sell a house, you want to give yourself every opportunity possible to sell the property for the most money and create urgency and this kind of almost feeding frenzy around your property so that you can get a better deal. So, when we put these properties on the market, we want to make sure that we scrub our database to see, hey, are we already working with somebody looking for something like this? And this is also why it's important to start communicating with a real estate agent before you're ready to just put it on the market. And, the vast majority of sellers, as an example, we get the call when they're ready to sell. Hey, we want to interview you. We want to talk about selling our house. Come explain the process. How much is our house worth? How much time is it going to take to sell it? What can we sell it for? So on and so forth. But for the people that give us just a little more time, that say, hey, in a few months, we're going to be selling our house. We want to talk with you now. We want to create a game plan. We want to know what we should be doing to our house to fix it up, to maximize the sales price. And of course, we go through all those things, but we also have the ability to look back at our database and say, well, okay, rather than just focusing on all these buyers that kind of, symbolize the center of a dartboard, the people that are ready, willing, and able to buy right now, we get far more people at kind of the top of the funnel, as an example, that are now researching properties so that in a few months when they're ready to buy, they have a good idea of what's available. They understand the process. They've selected us as their agent. They know, what they need to do in order to make this process enjoyable and profitable for them. So the more lead time we have, the better chance we have of connecting a buyer and a seller just based on our own internal database. We have literally a database full of 210,000 people. And I was going through the math in terms of quantifying how much it cost me to create that kind of a database. And folks, I'm here to tell you that it's close to $2 million. I mean, there aren't a lot of companies that have the kind of ability to do that. And I'm not necessarily boasting here, but I'm just saying that sometimes the strength of the agent that you choose should take their database into consideration, not just the flashy things that they say during their presentation, which they may or may not actually do for you. But how do we find some of these properties? As an example, when a buyer says, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is my time frame to move. Of course, the same thing applies to our database on the seller side. If we have people that have said, hey, I want to be selling in the next few months, we just look for the buyers that have that same time frame and same search criteria. If that doesn't work, what are some of the other ways that we can find properties for our buyers? Well, I'll tell you that not a lot of agents out there like working with for sale by owners because they have to negotiate their commission up front, which frankly isn't hard to do. Agents just don't necessarily like having those conversations. They'd rather just take the easy route and show a property that's already in the MLS so they don't have to do any extra effort. Or they just don't feel like dealing with a for sale by owner because they essentially feel like they have to do twice the work for one commission instead of two, which is understandable. I mean, I've had plenty of situations where we've represented a buyer and the for sale by owner was such a pain in the butt to work with that it was a very hard and challenging process, but it was worth it in the end because the buyer got the house they wanted and they were happy. So it's all good. Not here to say that our lives as real estate agents should be easy. People rely on us for our professionalism and our results-based approach to helping them get what they want at a good deal, at a fair price, in a reasonable amount of time. So for sale by owners, of course, are one avenue. And you just have to determine, if you're going to do this on your own, well, how are you going to search through some of these databases of for sale by owners? Like as an example, we have a system that collects information from essentially every single for sale by owner site or system out there and just funnels it all into one place so that, again, if we're working with a buyer, I can say, well, let's look at all the for sale by owners that have been available over the past 90 days, 180 days, even a year or so ago that matched your criteria. Maybe they tried selling for sale by owner and they realized that, we're not really getting anywhere because the only calls we're getting are real estate agents that just want to list our house. And if they're not marketing their home really well to buyers, then that's probably what's going to happen. They're just going to get a bunch of real estate agents to call them to say, oh yeah, I've got a buyer for your house. And they walk through your house to quote unquote preview it for their client, when in reality, all they're doing is just telling you what they do to sell homes. It's a, foot in the door technique for a listing appointment with you. But a lot of these people that end up getting frustrated that, maybe they didn't have to sell, but they wanted to sell. So they kind of dip their toe in the water as a for sale by owner to see if it'll work. They say, all right, well, I guess this just isn't worth my time. It's not working out. Doesn't mean they won't sell their house. It just means that they're irritated by the types of people they're attracting. So we'll go through and we'll say, all right, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you tried selling your home, close to a year ago as a for sale by owner. I'm just curious, if somebody was ready, willing, and able to purchase your home and make you a fair offer, would you still consider selling it? It works. Same thing with people that had their home on the market with a real estate agent that ended up not selling. I mean, even in this market, we're still getting a lot of people that end up not selling their house. They hired an agent, it didn't work. And so now they're at this crossroads of, well, do we put it back on the market or do we just wait? Those people will consider selling their house. That's another avenue that we can use. But I'll tell you the thing that we do that requires the most effort, but also is incredibly impactful, is that if we know where a buyer wants to be, they have a good grip on the type of home they want to buy. They say, hey, Brian, we want to, we know for a fact that we want a home in, I don't know, name it, Carolina Park in West Ashley, or I'm sorry, in Mount Pleasant. I was going to say Carolina Bay. Doesn't matter what the neighborhood is. We have the ability using technology to go online and essentially draw a line around the neighborhood. And then within that, it will give us every single person's name and phone number and email address and sometimes cell phone numbers. And then I have people in my office that I pay full time to just make phone calls. They're called inside sales agents. They don't actively represent people in buying or selling. They just work on behalf of our clients to find opportunities that don't currently exist. So we'll call the whole neighborhood. And the really cool thing is this. We've done at least a dozen transactions every year for the past several years through this particular process. The challenge is most people don't have the time, or they don't have the resources, or they don't have the people on their team to effectively do this. And if they try to take it on themselves, they realize how much time it actually takes, and they just don't do it. They just don't do it effectively. They don't do it consistently. So if we can just understand where you want to be, then we can call the neighborhood and, very simple conversation. But, hey, of all the people in the neighborhood, is there anyone that's expressed an interest in selling a house to somebody that would be making, a fair offer? A dozen times a year, we have literally found needles in a haystack for people. And there are a few other things that, of course, we do to find these properties and uncover inventory that isn't currently available. But the point is we have a process for it. We understand how to do it, and we have results around those systems and processes. So if that's something that you're struggling with right now, if you want to sell a home, buy another, you just can't really find what you're looking for, call me. If we don't have something in our database right now, then we have a great chance of finding something, so long as we can have a good conversation about what you're truly looking for. Same thing applies on the seller side. If you guys want to sell your home in the next few months, begin the planning process now. Allow us some more time to sift through and mine our database and the database of other agents that we know that do a good amount of business. And let's see if we can match up that buyer in their time frame with you and your time frame to sell. Again, not a lot of this is rocket science. You just need the time and the energy and the resources and the willpower to do this consistently. So if that's something I can help you with, feel free to give me a call. Let's have a conversation about it. 843-400-8009. That's my cell. You can call or text that number, 843-400-8009. Or you can visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.